You see before you a man who has known great suffering. I grew up in San Diego, and the only sports teams we had to root for were the Chargers and Padres. And that is a fool's errand. Or at least that's how I was exposed when I was growing up. You see, San Diego was a town of fair weather fans, if you'll pardon the expression. That is to say, when the Chargers were doing great, everybody was in the stadium. Yay! You would see people wearing Charger uniforms, and it would be amazing. And then, inevitably, by the second game, they were doing terribly. This is a team that found ways to lose in the fourth quarter that were genuinely impossible, and yet they would do it. And all of a sudden, the jerseys were gone. No one had any lightning bolts anywhere. It was like the team didn't even exist. And yeah, you could probably gone into the stadium for free to watch some of the home games. Likewise, the Padres. The Padres. Yeah, I mean, they've occasionally done moderately well, but let's be honest, most of their seasons, you forget that they're even in the national leagues of baseball, that they even have a shot. It seems more like a rookie league than anything else. And this meant that I was absolutely floored when I moved to Baltimore for my first pulpit. Because Baltimore, they know how to be fans. They know how to be fans. It doesn't matter what the score is. You are there from the kickoff until the end. It doesn't matter how many games you've lost and how bad your season is this year. You are wearing that black and purple every single game day, and everybody will know that you are a Ravens fan. My kids had to wear black and purple going to the Jewish day school. They had to wear this, because if you didn't, you would be in trouble in Baltimore, because that's what it is to be a fan. The same for the Orioles, although, to be honest, football has always been more of my game than baseball. And that's partly because Baltimore knew what it meant to be betrayed as a fan. Though some of you may know what I'm referring to. Certainly when I arrived in Baltimore, I had no clue, but I was quickly informed of the betrayal of the Colts. The Baltimore Colts. May their name be blotted out like Haman. That was how it was told to me. That was how it was told to me. Now, of course, they're in Indianapolis, but they left like a thief in the night. That there was no indication that they were going, and the fans had been supporting them and rooting for them for decades, and then all of a sudden, boom, gone, like a ghost, like a humiliated lover out the window when the husband came home, and they are gone to Indianapolis, a pox on their house. They still hated the Colts more than any other team I had ever seen someone hate. It was quite astonishing, a little bit scary, and I'm glad I wasn't from Indianapolis when I got there, because I think I would have had a hard time. I probably would never have gotten the job. But they understood something in Baltimore, that to be a fan is to love your team unconditionally. To not say, I love you as long as you're winning. I love you as long as you're getting to the playoffs. I love you as long as you're bringing home trophies and Super Bowl rings. I love you as long as you make me look good when I tell my friends from out of town that I support you. That's not what being a fan is. That's not what love is. A love that is conditioned upon something is no love, say our sages in Pirkei Avot. That's maybe infatuation. More often than not, it is a form of self-gratification, of being happy for something because it's already done something for you and you expect it to continue doing more, not simply being happy that it exists and that you are able to be in relationship with it. The Baltimore fandom taught me just how passionate people could be about teams and how passionate people could be about many things without caring about that scoreboard, without caring about how many trophies came home. And this is a powerful idea within Judaism that we rarely see reflected in the modern world. We are transactional in our modern world. What have you done for me lately, or what are you going to do for me tomorrow? And I know that whatever you do for me, you're expecting something in return, and as long as we can negotiate a happy medium for that, we'll all be happy. No, you won't be happy, you'll be satisfied, and that is perfectly fine in some degree of our business transactions, but it is absolutely corrosive and poisonous in every other relationship, and I would argue even in most of our business dealings, where we should not be treating the other person as though they are merely a link in a system that allows more zeros to accumulate in my bank account rather than a human being with God's gift of life to bring them to this world. Our Tanakh tells us that the greatest example of love that is seen in the entire Tanakh, and there are many examples, was between Jonathan and David. Jonathan and David were technically rivals for the throne of Israel. Jonathan's father, Saul, was appointed the first king by the prophet Samuel. And he didn't work out. He wasn't such a great king. So God said, Saul and his family will no longer have the kingship. I will give it to another who is more worthy. And so Samuel anointed David. So now you have technically two kings at the same time. This is not a good thing. This is not make for happy relationships. And yet, David, who has been anointed the new king, and Jonathan, who is the son of the current reigning king, and who would be king next when his father passes away, become the best of friends. They have the deepest of love for one another. They fight on each other's behalf, knowing that by all normal transactional accounts, the other person should want them out of the picture. And yet they fight, they work, they defend each other passionately. Jonathan going so far as risking his own life in order to spare David, that he can escape in time to evade Saul's wrath before Saul finally decides to kill David. It is only because of their love that our kingdom was able to survive, that the Jewish people were able to survive. Had Jonathan not loved David, and had David not trusted the love of Jonathan and reciprocated it fully, we would have been wiped out by ourselves right then and there, 2,700-ish years ago. It was only the love of two people who had no reason to love each other, that created us to still be here today. That is a love which is not conditional. That is a love which is not looking for something, but is just giving. It's just offering of the self, and trust that the other person is doing the same. It's hard to find that type of love now. And yet there are so many things that need our love, whether it be your family that needs that type of unconditional love, whether it be your friends, whether it be your community. Temple Israel certainly needs to be a place where we love each other unconditionally. That when we are in this room, we are in love with one another. When we walk out of this room, that love carries us forward, buoyed into the world around us. In our country, we need this unconditional love. To look upon each person who happens to be within the borders of this amazing place we call the United States, and to say, I love you. I love you for no reason other than that you exist with me here at this time in this place and share this most amazing and precious of blessings that we have. I love you. You don't need to earn my love. You don't need to worry about losing it. It is unconditional. Simply because you are here and so am I. We need to show this type of unconditional love for the land and the people of Israel. We need to be able to say that Israel is in our heart always, never to be forgotten, never to be jeopardized by other calculations within our lives. But that Israel is there, loved, 100%, without reservation, without conditions, no asterisks, no fine print, no fast talking at the end of the commercial. That we love her. I'll give you an example of how that could sometimes go awry. My mother, as many of you know, has been a Jewish professional. That's not a professional Jew, but a Jew who worked within the Jewish industry, who worked within Jewish organizations for her entire life. She worked for a while at Jewish family services in San Diego. And if you want to talk about fair weather friends, how many of you are old enough to remember the first Gulf War? Remember the one with George Bush, right? The one right after Reagan. We're all going back to Saddam Hussein, invasion of Kuwait. We're bringing this to mind. Okay, so you also probably remember that Saddam Hussein was hoping to deflect the attack on him by drawing Israel into the war. So he fired Scud missiles, very famously, we all know the term Scud then, into the land of Israel, potentially being filled with chemical, biological, or other types of destructive capacity. We're remembering this again, and for those of you that were not alive in the 1990s, ask your family, read a history book, and you'll find out more about this. So as that phase of the war got underway, nobody knew what would happen. We now, here, yes, 30 years later, we know what happened, but at that time, nobody knew whether or not the chemical warfare was going to be effective. Perhaps gas was going to rain down out of the skies from Iraq and suffocate half the population of Israel. Perhaps a biological pathogen would take hold, and the stew of death that the Iraqi scientists had brewed would wipe out a huge portion of the population of Israel. Perhaps Israel would retaliate, as would be normal for any other country on earth, and then maybe the other nations of the Middle East would join in on Iraq's side, despite their hatred of it, just because jumping on the bandwagon against Israel is often the thing to do. And then Israel would be embroiled in a war that, well, you never know how those things are going to go. So, transactionally, the director of JFS, my mother's boss, said, quick, we need to sell our Israel bonds. Right? The JFS would often receive Israel bonds in donation. People would want to support the organization, so they would buy a bond from Israel, and then they would donate it to JFS. And JFS would allow the bond to mature, and once the bond had matured, they would be able to receive a larger amount than the original person had donated, and Israel was good for benefiting with that money in the meantime, and JFS knew that it had a long-term revenue stream that would come in to support the good it was doing in San Diego for those that needed it. Everybody understands how this works? If not, I'll talk to you during the break about Philanthropy 101. Well, the director was afraid. What if the worst case scenario happens? What if Israel is overrun by her enemies? What if she is crippled by her enemies? What if her economy tanks? She might default on those bonds. She might not be able to make good on the IOUs that those bonds represent. And if that happened, then JFS would be out a whole lot of money. So before the worst happens, let's sell it now. That way there can be a run on the market, and we'll get in on the front, on the top, and we will lose the least. And then everybody who begins to panic sell after us, well, they'll lose a lot more, but at least we'll come out better than otherwise. And what'd you say? She refused. She said, no, I will not sell Israel bonds in the middle of a missile attack on Israel. What the hell is wrong with you? Well, her love was conditional. The director of the JFS, Jewish Family Services, yes, she loved Israel when it was convenient. She loved Israel when they were winning. She loved Israel the way everyone in San Diego loves the Chargers and the Padres. You know, you'll wave a banner, you'll wave a flag when everything looks good. And when things look bad, well, you know, you just sort of put it in your back pocket and pretend like you don't know who it is. And this was somebody committed to the Jewish people and not able to recognize that you cannot treat each other, you cannot treat any human being, as though they are merely part of an equation for a transaction. That you either love them unconditionally or you do not deserve to use the term love. And that when Israel needs us most, we don't get to choose whether we are going to be there for her. That isn't allowed. I mean, you certainly can make that choice, But if you do, don't dare call yourself somebody who loves Israel. You can say, I think Israel's a nice idea. And oftentimes I think it's worthwhile supporting as long as things line up just right. Yeah, you can say that. I'll disagree. And again, come at me during the break and we'll have a long conversation about that kind of calculation. But that is not what love means. Now, some of you might be saying, yeah, but what if I don't like the current government of Israel? What if I don't like some of the policies of the government of Israel? What if I met some Israelis on vacation and they were really mean to me as tourists? Don't I get to say, I don't love that? No. However, there's always a however in Judaism. Just as Judaism says that there is no love which is conditional that counts as love, and that all true love must be unconditional, it equally says any love without rebuke is not true love. That is to say, you are absolutely allowed and in fact commanded to offer criticism towards the subject of your love. Your love is not contingent upon that criticism. They don't have to obey you for you to still love them. But you also have no obligation to remain silent if there is something that is bringing you pain that you feel must be said. If your spouse forgot your anniversary, you need to let them know that it upsets you. That doesn't mean you stopped loving them. It doesn't mean your love is conditional only upon receiving the right gifts for your anniversary. At least I hope not. But it means that you love them enough that you are willing to point out the things that have bothered you, that you feel unsure of, or the things that you are hurt by. Because only if you truly love something unconditionally do you stand in a place that is going to allow you to criticize, to rebuke, to offer tochacha, as Judaism calls it, from a place of love. Not of anger, not of hate, not of bitterness, but of love. Like an intervention that you might have with a family member that is hurting themselves with substances or in a toxic relationship. You love them enough that you have to try and help them understand what you see as being a problem. And if they choose to ignore what you have said, you still love them. But you had to say something. Now, I'm not saying that Israel is worthy of our criticism. I'm not saying that Israel has deserved our criticism. But if there is something that you feel needs to be said, if you feel that there is something that has to be criticized or pointed out that it could be done in a slightly better way, that's okay. That doesn't mean you don't love Israel. The same as if you are critical of our own country. If you feel our government has made mistakes, if you feel your political opponents are making mistakes, as long as you can look into your heart and say, I love them, then by all means, speak to them about the mistakes that you think are being made. But if you can't say that you love them, then start with that first. Find that spot within you that will be able to love them even though you disagree, even though there is rebuke boiling up inside of you. Find that love first and then speak a message of criticism, of rebuke, of critique, of guidance, whichever way you wish to form it. When we read all of the liturgy of Yom Kippur, when we expose ourselves to the countless repetitions of our confessionals, all of it is prefaced upon the idea that God loves us. God is rebuking us because God cares. God is telling us that we mess up because God knows that if we do better, it will be better for us. Rebuke is a sign of love if it comes from love, and a rebuke is a pointless act of hatred if it does not, and is not worthy of the term tochacha within our tradition. If all you want is to see somebody grovel before you and beg your forgiveness so that you can lord it over them that they made a mistake, then you are not rebuking them, you are humiliating them. And this is not God's attitude towards us, and it should never be our attitude towards a family member, a friend, our nation, or the land of Israel. We are not asked to hold our tongue, love it or leave it, not allowed to criticize anything. God forbid. Judaism says if you love it, say what you think is going wrong. Make it better. And keep the love in your heart throughout the entire process. Tochacha is an expression of love. And it is through ahava that the relationship is made eternal. It is through that bond of love, that non-conditional love, that we are able to eternally defend one another, eternally link ourselves to each other, and eternally labor towards this world becoming Gan Eden, the garden that is meant to be. Not through silence, not through subservience, through passionate, active, unconditional love. The same love that God gives us, we are asked to give each other. It's not really asking all that much. I know it's not popular these days. Anger is all the rage, and hate is a hell of a drug. But I promise to you, love is so much better. Not just psychologically and for your heart, but so much better for the whole world. The world was created as God's ultimate expression of love. The Torah was given as God's ultimate expression of love. This day of forgiveness was given because of God's love. Draw from God's love and find it in your heart to love each other. Those of you here, those of you abroad, all of us, everywhere. There really is no other path forward. Gemar Chatima Tova.